Sly Cooper has been missing in action since 2005, but he's finally back with his new game, Thieves in Time. And part of the reason for this long gap between drinks is because the studio behind the original Sly games have been busy with the infamous franchise. So the baton was passed to the new studio, Sanzura Games, and their new sequel sees the gang using a time machine to hop through history in what is one of the most varied platformers we've seen.
Hex, I don't remember much about the Sly Cooper games at all, and in the start of this one, Thieves in Time, I wasn't having much fun. Smashing boxes to collect coins has to be one of the most tired gameplay ideas ever. Plus the platforming is pretty much on rails. Instead of just being able to jump and climb around organically, you have to look for sparkly parts of the background, then pressing the sneak button locks you onto them. Then just as I started getting bored, they went back in time.
Do not slow down, Murray!
I never do! Whoa!
Yeah, you gotta love those Back to the Future references. Plus, once the game shifts time periods, the gameplay really shifts up a notch as well. The simple platforming really takes a backseat, and you're doing something different every few minutes, I found.
When we got to Japan, it was obvious something was very wrong.
The first time jump takes you to feudal Japan, and because of the future technology being used, you can take advantage of Sly's hacker sidekick Bentley.
The gang's beefcake character Murray also adds variety with his slower combat sequences, and his objectives are just as random. I was surprised to see this fishing minigame using the 6-axis part of the controller. I forgot that was even in the controller. This is terrible.
The perfect speckled cave nipper!
And then this happened.
Ah yes, the old cross-dressing geisha hippo rhythm minigame. Classic. Of course, you'll still be playing as Sly Cooper and his ancestor locals. These levels conform to the more typical stealth platforming, but Sly does get to use some samurai armor to slip past the guards and reflect fireballs.
Then they time shifted to the Wild West.
Looking for my ancestor, Tennessee Kid Cooper.
The action sequences and the variety are both taken up a notch here. Sly gets tossed in jail, complete with the giant ball and chain, which they use in some really creative ways.
Yes, and Sly's cowboy ancestor naturally packs a pistol as well. Third-person shooting's a pretty big departure from the normal Sly action, but they've done a good job here of pinching tricks like Red Dead Redemption's slow-mo marking targets. Plus, there are a few explosive sequences as you blast barrels and enemies while hurtling along railway tracks. I mean, you can't fault this game's variety. One of the criticisms I would level at the game, though, is that some of these sequences do overstay their welcome. Boss battles in particular are a bit of a grind. I mean, we know the drill: learn the boss's attacks, wait for the moment of vulnerability, rush in and smack them around, then rinse, repeat.
How do you like my cane style?
But it's just so repetitive. And I can't say I made much sense of the game's plot either. I mean, there's this art dealer, criminal mastermind guy that's traveling through time stealing rare artifacts. But I mean, realistically, if you had a time machine, wouldn't you just go back in time and get the winning lottery numbers and just save yourself a bunch of hard work?
I think you might be overthinking it a little bit, Hex. Just go with it. Time travel always has holes. It's wibbly wobbly. Take when you're in the Ice Age, for example, and putting on a saber-toothed coat and suddenly it lets you leap about like Wolverine. Or when your caveman Cooper ancestor has a sumo fight. I didn't ask why, I just went with the flow. Just went with it.
Well, I would have liked to have seen some of the core platforming as Sly just tightened up a bit because it was a little bit simplistic. But, you know, I do agree there are some really enjoyable sequences here. Yeah, I can't remember the last platformer I played that had half as much variety as this. I'm giving this 7.5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
Yeah, there's a lot of polish here, and this new developer has brought a lot of fresh ideas to the franchise, which often isn't the case, so I'm giving it 8.